Sri Sri Ravi Shankar says that Samadhi is a very deep state of meditation. You are given energy and long-lasting bliss. It carries you higher and higher until your very presence radiates love. Well, give me some of that. Let's talk about the last limb of yoga, Samadhi. So you've been to a few or maybe many yoga classes and you are hooked. Somehow you feel better, kinder, more connected to yourself and those around you. Your friends view you as a hippie now, and your parents, well, they think it's a phase. Regardless, when you are on your mat, you are home. Yoga teachers and students, come learn how yoga can help you navigate the daily grind, breakups, your anxiety from a place of clarity and compassion. Welcome to the Modern Yogi Podcast, hosted by me, Laura Siljander. Misfits, earthlings, yogis, take a deep breath, check in to see how you're doing, body, mind, and soul, because you have arrived. Yogis, welcome back. So glad you have joined us for the last limb of yoga. I've taken a bit of a break. I've missed you dearly, and I am so stoked to be back. I am in Turks and Caicos right now. It's a Caribbean island. Here, learning how to kite surf. It's very hard, but the water is gorgeous. The beaches are beautiful, but a box of cereal is about $10. But I recommend it. So if you're looking for a Caribbean warm island vacay, check out Turks and Caicos. If you want some suggestions, anything like that, we'll be here about a month. So hopefully we'll have the island dialed in as much as we can. But anywho, you're here to learn about the last limb of yoga, Samadhi. Y'all, this is a very, very complex chapter or pada. Samadhi, this limb is chock full of Sanskrit, and so much Svadhyaya, self-study, has gone into this. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a lot of the Sanskrit out so we can kind of focus more on the main points that Patanjali was trying to make. If I were to leave the Sanskrit in, I feel like it'd be more of a Sanskrit lesson rather than a lesson on Samadhi. But let's dive in. So numerous lineages view Samadhi differently, but most will agree it is a different state of consciousness than the average person, or a different state of consciousness you have when you're driving, studying, cooking, eating, even Netflixing. It's a different state of consciousness. Most lineages can agree on that. In the Yoga Sutras, there are 4 chapters, also called padas, and actually chapter 1 or pada 1 is the Samadhi chapter. It's so interesting. Patanjali just said, hey, I'm not going to waste any time. Let's talk about enlightenment. Okay, so Samadhi is also known to be enlightenment, self-realization, liberation, nirvana, not the band. Since it's a different state of everyday consciousness, it's very, very challenging to describe. It's very much more of an experience or something that you experience. So this is what makes it so fun to try to teach. You're trying to describe an experience and a feeling rather than this is what it is. So thank you, Patanjali. There are 2 main levels that Patanjali writes about. When both of these levels are experienced, the practitioner has total awareness of the ego. The unaware ego can cause us to attach to things or experiences that are temporary. This causes us to grasp or causes us sadness, anxiety, which means pain and suffering. If you want to know more about the ego, please go back into the archives, and the episode called The Ego Baby describes what the ego is. Also, what happens when these 2 main levels are experienced is the practitioner really experiences non-attachment of our earthly labels or the smaller case S self. Again, go back into the archives and look into the capital S self versus lowercase s self. But really quickly, what they are is the lowercase s self are these just created earthly labels that we have, like our gender, sexual orientation, mom, dad, sister, aunt, surfer, teacher, yoga student. There are all these labels that we inherit, whether it's given to us or we project onto the world. We spend most of our time here. So there are these self-created earthly labels or these identities. These are really let go. We don't have attachments to these labels when we've experienced both states of samadhi. Now, there is so much that you will experience in these states, so let's just dive deeper. But before you can experience samadhi, according to Patanjali, you have the last 3 limbs of yoga dialed in. It's second nature almost. Just to refresh your memory, it's pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana. Don't worry, I'm going to go over it just in case you need a little refresher because, I need refreshers. Pratyahara is withdrawing from the senses. It's a skill you learn, and it's where you draw all of the prana that you're putting out into the world, and you draw it in towards the spine. Like, let's say you sit down to meditate. There's a dog barking outside. You no longer hear it when you really hone this skill in. Maybe your spouse is cooking something in the other room. You don't smell it. You stop smelling it. Have you ever noticed you go into a yoga class and there's a busy street next to you and you hear it at first, but maybe like halfway into your yoga practice, you totally stop hearing the traffic. You withdrew from that sense. And Patanjali says we need to be able to do this, to draw our senses inward, to not be distracted by all the things around us. So that's dialed in. And then dharana, your one point of focus, where you're concentrating on one thing, whether that's a rose, a candle flame, a mantra, a body scan, if you're thinking about God in your head, whatever you've used for a point of focus for your meditation, you've got that honed in now. You can kind of slide in, control your senses a little bit. You're pulling them in, and now you're focusing on your object of meditation. Let me just use like a candle flame. Tritaka, you're gazing at a candle. So you're thinking about the candle. You're really focusing all your attention awareness on this candle. And then the next limb, dhyana, is just extended concentration. The yogis call this true meditation, where you are no longer distracted at all. The mind is fixed. It merges with the object of your dharana. Think about you are pouring like a thick glass of oil into a bowl. It's smooth, it's unbroken. That's dhyana. You have these 3 things honed in. Senses are in, you're focused on your object of dharana, and you're in it. Patanjali says these 3 things are practiced over and over and over again, and you feel like these things almost are second nature. I know what you're thinking. I'm not even close to that. And you know what, friends? I'm with you. If you haven't noticed by now, this unenlightened being is teaching you about enlightenment. Like, irony, I know. But I'm with you when you say, I'm still stuck in pratyahara. And I would say, you know what? Me too. Most days, I'm just hanging out right there. Some days I'll be in dharana, and very rarely dhyana comes. But I will say, the years and years that go by that I meditate, the more often I feel dhyana. It's not impossible. Even for you ADHD people, I was prescribed medication for it. With practice, you can do this. Some may take longer, like me. But these 3 things are honed in. So samadhi can view it, if you want, like a progression. there are these two main categories. One is with higher knowledge and one is called beyond higher knowledge. So let's start with the first category of samadhi. You can find this in Sutra 1.17. There is this first category of samadhi. And in here, in this category alone, you can go into deeper and deeper levels. This is like a very layered cake here. Samadhi is like an 8-layer cake or an 8-layer dip. And you're taking your fork or your chip and you're going deeper and deeper and peeling back each layer. And each layer that you go tastes even more delicious. In this first level of samadhi, there is only one fluctuation of the mind left. Mind fluctuations. Those are your thoughts. Fluctuations of the mind. I'm hot. I'm hungry. What's for dinner? My mom was so mean to me. My boyfriend's a jerk. I love my boyfriend. I love my mom. My toe hurts. Get where I'm going with this? It's almost like, think about a waterfall and fluctuations of the mind when you're not meditating. For the average person or me or people with ADHD, the waterfall is filled with water. It is powerful. You can hear it from a mile away. It's filled with water and it is falling down. It's beautiful sometimes, dangerous sometimes, but your waterfall is filled with water. When you start to enter in these deeper levels of contemplation, your waterfall is starting to dry up a bit, but not in a bad way, but it's starting to dry up a little bit. In this level of samadhi, it has a drop left. There is one fluctuation of the mind left. And the fluctuation that is left is what your object of dharana. What are you meditating on? That's what's left. So think about this level of samadhi, the first layer of the cake, the first layer of your vegan nachos. It's like an extended dhyana. You are in a conditional state of oneness with the object of your dharana. You're in this conditional state of oneness with your mantra, with your visualization, with your gazing of the candle. Get where I'm going? So it's conditional though, but you are merged and totally absorbed in your object of dharana. You are still gaining deep wisdom, and deep reflection can occur after. An even deeper state of this category. So I'm dipping my chip into the dip a little bit deeper. You notice that there are elements of the object of your dharana, but it's in an even closer and more magnified way. Like your mind magnifies all the subtleties of the object or tool you're using. So let's say I am focused on gazing at a candle flame, and then I close my eyes and I view the candle flame in my mind. So you're noticing the wick, you're noticing the melting wax, you're noticing the different colors of the flame, and you're in a conditional state of oneness with this. But you start to notice the elements of this flame even deeper. Like you never notice how at the tip of the flame is really dark and there's a little bit of smoke that's coming out at the top. They're like magnified. Okay, here's this really lame example, but whatever. If you've seen the Twilight movies, yes, I'm bringing vampires into this. I'm sorry, but I just binge watched them. So if you remember in the very last book or the very last movie in the Twilight saga, when Bella becomes a vampire, she notices like the dust in the room. She notices the little smudge on the glass a normal human eye wouldn't pick up. You notice these subtleties of the object that you never noticed before. It's even deeper. And then you start to notice the unseen. You can almost feel the object's energy. You can't taste it, you can't touch it, but this conditions the mind to expand beyond just the object and to go deeper. You can feel it. I know, we're getting weird. See why this is hard to explain? It's more experienced. The pure mind moves beyond thoughts or the objective world. Here, an inner joyful peace is experienced. And we're going to dive even deeper into this layered cake or vegan nachos. And the mind dives deeper into our consciousness, and it becomes even more purified. Here we identify all the attachments of our I-ness, our ego. Those earthly labels I was talking about. We identify them here. Here we become awakened into the divinity within ourselves. Paramahamsa Yogananda, the dude who brought yoga to the West, thank God for him. Autobiography of a Yogi is his book. Says that in this state, you are totally absorbed in the inner awareness of God. You're like, holy shit, I am divine. There is divinity within me. There is a holy space within me. I can feel it. I'm in touch with it. See why it takes so much concentration, so much focus. Your mind almost has to move beyond object and go more abstract. To see beyond the object, to go into feeling and energy, to feel the divinity within us. This is the first category of samadhi. It's like a layered cake or layered vegan nachos. And no, I'm not hungry. I just keep talking about food and vampires. Sutra 1.17. That is where you're going to find all of the juicy details about this first category of samadhi. So first you go with an extended dhyana practice. You're gaining some deeper wisdom. Then you start to notice elements of whatever you're meditating on in an even deeper level. Then you go even beyond that and you start to feel the object or feel what you are meditating on. An inner joy, inner peace is experienced. Deep reflection occurs afterwards. Then you go even deeper. And attachments to the ego and our earthly labels and all of our desires are really starting to feel far away, not as important. And we wake up to the divinity within ourselves. I mean, I'm here for that. Here's another example that has nothing to do with vampires or food, okay? I don't know if you all have heard of the artist named Lindsay Sterling. She plays the violin and she's so cool. If you haven't, look her up, Lindsay Sterling. She plays a violin and she's amazing. So pretend you're you're the violinist. You're Lindsay Sterling. You walk on stage with your awesome outfit, with your cool violin, and you look out into this audience who are ready and cheering and they're stoked. Pratyahara, you have to withdraw from the audience just a little bit to get your shit together. I mean, to bring the violin to your chin and focus on what you're about to play. So instead of focusing on the audience, the violinist starts to draw the senses inward to focus on the notes, the violin, and the performance. Dharana, single point of focus, Lindsay starts to play. She can hear the crowd, but goes back from like the crowd is having a good time to playing her violin. It's kind of like you're feeding off the energy of the crowd. Like, it's so cool. It's great. But I don't know if you've ever seen any performers. It almost looks as if they've gone to a different realm when they really get into it. Have you ever noticed that when you've seen live music? You're like, where did that person go? They are playing their hearts out and they're totally focused. Ding, 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 Diana. The violinist is absorbed in the music. Lindsay knows what note is coming next. It feels effortless, like that oil pouring. She feels like she's alone with the music. She can feel the music. She may even feel like she becomes an extension of the music. She's so in it. She feels like she is it. It goes beyond what she's just playing and hearing, and she goes into a deeper thought and she goes into feeling. And the audience usually picks up on that and goes crazy. I hope that kind of gives you an example of like using the different limbs and then really dropping into this level of samadhi. So remember how I told you there are 2 categories? Yeah, that was the first. Patanjali's like, bam, enlightenment. But I don't want to shortchange you. You need to know the second category. So the second category can be found in Sutra 1.18. It's referred to as the other samadhi, or beyond higher knowledge. In this level of samadhi, there are no more fluctuations of the mind. So you know that waterfall, that full-fledged waterfall that went to a drip in the last samadhi? Yeah, that drip's gone. It is dried up, but not in a bad way. Not in like a global warming way. In a good way. You don't have any more thoughts here. You know the like cliche, you're like meditation, like empty the mind. I can't stand it when I hear someone cue like empty the mind. I'm like, what? That's not a real thing. But in this level of samadhi, it is. So the only fluctuation that was left in the one before it was the object that you were focusing on. But now you're so absorbed in that object, you've moved past it. You have no fluctuations of the mind anymore. But what is present are something called samskaras. Samskaras. I may need to do a whole episode on samskaras. Let me know if you're interested in that. Samskaras are mental impressions or memories of what we've experienced in this life and past lives. So whether you believe in past lives or not, samskaras are memories of this life and the past ones. And we take these memories into the next life. We take these samskaras and our purusha, or like our soul, into the next life after we die. If you believe in the yogic theory of there are multiple lives, then this makes sense. If you're more of the salvation type, you're going to heaven or hell afterwards, well, you bring your memories with you. If this all is a bunch of bull to you, then hey, it's your choice. It's your satya. I'm just here to deliver and make sense of this last limb of yoga. So samskaras are mental imprints or impressions. I like to think of them as memories that we've had experienced in this life or past lives. Typically, past life samskaras are dormant, they're suppressed, but they can be activated and triggered. When you're in this level of samadhi, you still have your samskaras. However, they're dormant. They are not activated. We don't act upon them. They don't come up. But they are there. That's important. So you have no fluctuations of the mind anymore. The mind is empty. Gosh, I hate saying that. I do not know what that is like. But these memories are there, but they're dormant. What also comes up in the second category of samadhi is non-attachment. Non-attachment occurs. No more ego, no more labels, no more even dramas, your earthly dramas. Those are gone. Gone. The mind is completely, like I said, empty. When you close your eyes to meditate, that is more of your home than the tangible world. The meditator experiences bliss within and is living completely in the present moment. Here are some takeaways. So deep. Yet I keep talking about food and vampires. Just shows you what level of samadhi I'm not on. Patanjali writes about how the state of oneness is possible when the practitioner hones in on dharana and flows into dhyana, makes that a regular practice. Samadhi has two different levels. You go from a waterfall of thoughts to one drip of thought, and then you experience joy and self-reflection. You notice the subtlety in objects and the energy of what you are focusing on. This primes the mind to think beyond table, chair, and makes you think, look at the wood grain, the stain. Then it makes you go past that and think about the tree of the wood where it came from, the energy and the root system of that tree, and how that tree had an effect on the tree next to it. It primes the mind to open up a lot You find a state of divinity within you. And you flow hopefully into the second category of Samadhi, where you have memories of this life or past lives, but they're dormant and they're no longer distracting. Non-attachment occurs here. And bliss. Yeah, that's enlightenment, apparently. All right, you stuck it out. You've gone through each and every limb. I hope you feel better for it, or at least you know about it. Please let me know if there are other yoga topics that you are interested in. I have a bunch coming down the pipeline. Wait, I said that wrong. I have some ideas for following episodes, but if there's something that you're interested in, please let me know. Also, if you are a yoga teacher or a yogi and you have something to share and you want to be on the podcast, reach out to me at practice_compassion on Instagram. I think I'm going to do some more interviews. They're really fun. All right, yogis, remember to practice that compassion with your thoughts. Practice that compassion with your speech, and practice that compassion with your actions. Shalom, namaste, aloha, meow.